Good evening, everyone. How are you guys doing today? So let me introduce myself. My name is Alex. Alexandria Simon just mentioned he couldn't come tonight. So Alex, which is me, decided to come over here and replace him. Yeah, because
I never get your name right. What is wrong?
no, you and a lot of our dear American friends that I cannot say Alexandria. It's too much complicated. Let's make the things easier. Life is all about to make things easier. And we are the ones who tended to complicate everything. See, how easy is that? If we just forgive the offenses that we have or that we feel that we have from other people, our life would be so much easier, lighter. We are the ones who complicate that. So what I'm trying to do over here is to make everyone's life easier, including yours, so you don't have to say my very complicated name every time that you come over here. So, oh, thank you so much. Now it's much, much, much better. But anyways, thank you for coming. Thank you for giving us the privilege of your presence tonight. It's always, it's really a pleasure to be here. As you guys can see, we're still moving, trying to move the things around. It's not in the way that we wanted this center to look like. The sound is back there, which is supposed to be over here. This is too small. And by the way, these two things over there, they are not a fault on this light, okay? They are two screws which are holding together the thing. So don't think that I did something wrong, which I might have something wrong over here with my translation and everything, but it wasn't done by me. That's somebody else's mistake. But anyways, talking about making our life easier. We spend our entire life trying to understand the meaning of our life, what you were doing here, why we suffer so much, why I go through all of these struggles and troubles and problems in my life, why I'm going over this. What Jesus or God wants to teach me or want to show me that I haven't seen, that I haven't learned yet. Why do I have to go those experiences and those struggles to go over the learning that I needed to get? Well, it's a kind of an easy thing if you think on an easier way, if you just look into Jesus. If you look into him, which is by the question 625 in the Spirit's book, he's our model, he's our role model. He's the one that we should be looking to follow his examples, his attitudes, his behavior, his footsteps. If we look into him in everything that he did in 3 years, and we look into us and what we have done in our entire life, we can easily come to the conclusion how far we are from him. So when we look in our lives and see all the problems that we have, the answer is so easy, because I'm so far away from his behavior, from the way that he used to act on earth while he was over here. If I'm that far away, that means that I'm doing a lot of mistakes. I'm making a lot of mistakes. I'm making a lot of wrong choices, choosing the wrong pathways a lot of times, pretty much a few times every day that we live. So that's why we go over those struggles, those problems, because they are just the results on what we have done and what we have chosen for ourselves. Once we started to follow his teachings and act exactly as he taught us, all of these problems, they'll go away just like magic. Why? Because we're going to be doing the right choices, making the right decisions, choosing the correct pathways that we were supposed to, but we still keep doing the things on the wrong way. Let's talk about charity, for example. Our talk tonight is charity characteristics, the challenge of our spiritual growth. And if we look into these characteristics of charity, we're going to find inside of it the pathway, the way that we should be acting, translated to our daily lives, let's put it this way, towards other people, towards our fellow brothers and sisters. Since we are in Spiritism, since we started to study Spiritism, we always have learned, and we have listened, we always have said that without charity, there is no salvation. Without charity, there is no salvation. Without charity, there is no salvation. But why? without charity, there is no salvation. So that means if I start to work Salvation Army or Goodwill, I'll be saved, I'll be safe. God will come and rescue me, and I'll be happy ever after. Nothing bad is going to happen to me. Well, if that would be that easy, everybody would be working for Salvation Army nowadays or Goodwill, because we're going to be doing charity all day long, helping other people, people in need, helping the ones on the hospitals, on the streets, giving away clothes and everything else. But it's not that easy. That's just the first example. If we look into the Jesus teachings and if we look into the gospel, all the passages that we have, can we remember just one single passage that Jesus gave something for someone for free, all of a sudden, just because? He helped a lot of people. He cured a lot of people. He thought the way for a lot of people. He raised people back from the dead, but not for free and not just because. That's because there was a teaching behind it. That's because there was a lesson to be learned. And that's because he was trying to help someone to find his pathway, because he deserved that. It wasn't something that was just given to that. And that's exactly what we have to do with ourselves as well. We have to look into these teachings and try to bring it to ourselves the core of these teachings. And the core of these teachings is always love. There's always what we have to feel. That's always what we have to bring inside it to the outside when we are dealing with other people. So what is without charity, there is no salvation? Where can we find it? Where this phrase did come from? Actually, this phrase is on the gospel according to Spiritism. And we have an entire chapter talking about that. Chapter 15, it's called Without Charity, There is No Salvation. And on this chapter, we say, all the moral teachings of Christ focuses on the need for charity and humility. That is, in the two virtues which are contrary to selfishness and pride. That's why it's so difficult for us nowadays to understand and practice charity on its purity, because it asks from us to go against our vanish, our selfishness, and our pride, which is, for most of us, it's still very complicated to fight against it. But also, Jesus did not limit himself to the mere recommending of charity, but instead putting very clear and explicit terms as being the only condition for future happiness. So Jesus just didn't say, well, without charity there is no salvation. He showed us the way. When we open this chapter of the gospel according to Spiritism, the very first passage that we have is the parable of the Good Samaritan. And he was explaining to everyone around him how we should behave towards someone when was in need. We should do the goods without looking to whom, without looking for any rewards, without looking if the people that we are helping right now will be able to pay us back in the future or not. That's not where we should be looking at. What we should be looking at, are we doing the best that we can for someone which is in need at that moment? Are we doing our best to help someone to get back from his own feet? Are we getting our best to help someone which is going through an illness or a bad time in its life to recuperate, to recover, and keep it moving forward? Are we doing our best on that? If we are doing, and we are doing in the right way and the way that we're supposed to do. But most of the time, we don't have and we don't see this very, very clear. So for most of us, charity is still very unknown. We still are learning, we are still learning what is actually in phase and how can we do it? How can we put this in practice? One of the very most, I would say, wonderful things that I learned since I moved to this country is the practicity in things. Everything over here in the US, for in America, it's very practical. If it's not practical, you're not doing the right way, or you're not doing or using the right product. So if you are trying to clean your window it's not working, probably you are not using the correct, you're not using the Windex, or you are not using the correct paper or toilet paper or something like that. Because everything here is practical. And if you look into Jesus, everything that he teaches is very practical, because we can practice this in the very next moment to our life. So charity, it's still so unknown. But how can we understand this better? What is charity? How can we define charity as Christ used to teach it and used to show to us? Charity is benevolence for everyone, especially with me, because this is not working properly tonight. So that's why I'm keep pressing this. See, I don't have a nervous, how to say, a tick. No, it's because it's not working properly. So bear with me, be benevolent with me, please. So charity is benevolence for everyone, indulgence for the imperfections of others, and forgiveness of injuries. And that's answer is answer that we can find in the Spiritism book, question 886. So what is benevolence? How can we define that? How can we understand benevolence? Benevolence, as we see on the dictionary, is the desire to do good to others. Goodwill. It's to be charitable. It's to be filled with the benevolence toward others or honors or other fellow creatures. It's also an act of kindness. So all of this is to be benevolent, to be good to the others, to do good to the others, and practice an act of kindness. Are we being benevolent? Are we being benevolent with our closest ones? Wives, husbands, sons and daughters. Grandkids, yes, of course, every day, all the time. We were very benevolent with grandkids, more than we were supposed to be. But anyways, that's part of life. That's the gift of life, by the way. How can we define also indulgence? Indulgence is the act of or practice of indulging. It's a gratification of desire. It's a state of being indulgent. Indulgence also allows us to be tolerant. So be indulgent is not paying attention in somebody else's faults or mistakes, especially against us. And forgiveness. What is forgiveness? Forgiveness is just forgetting everything that has been done on wrongdoings towards us. Forgiveness, it's forgiving the wrongdoings, the faults, the act, the pain, the bad feeling that we can have against someone. It's not forgetting the act itself. That's something else. That's Alzheimer. That's when we started to lose memory about the things that happens to us. One thing is forgetting the wrongdoing and the feeling of pain that we have. That's one thing. That's forgiving. Because we are not paying attention to something that bad that someone did to us. But we cannot forget the act itself, the happening, the fact. And why is that? Because that is going to help us to learn for future mistakes. We're going to have a reference. Well, if something like this is about to happen, I know exactly what is the outcome of that. So I can try to protect myself, and I can try not to offer myself to be punished or to offer myself to be suffering again. So that's a difference between of that. But now you understand what it is. How can we practice? How can we put this into practice? How can we bring this to our daily life? How can we act on these teachings? Friends, there are thousands of ways for practicing charity. You may do this by means of thoughts, words, and actions. And then we can also find this answer in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 13, item 10. So I can practice charity in thoughts, in words, and into actions. But how come is that? Into actions, we pretty much understand that. When we give a help, when we feed someone which is in need, when we give something that we have in our house, to help somebody else, when we give away our clothes, when we give a plate of food for someone, when we make a donation for some cause or something like that. That's an act. We are doing this pretty easy, and we pretty much understand. But how can we practice charity in our thoughts? Well, we can practice charity in our thoughts when we do not think about bad things or wrongdoings towards someone. When we do not create a wave of thoughts that is going to link our bad feelings towards someone. So what do we think? Our minds, our thinking process, it's very powerful. Whatever we think, we create waves that connect all of us all together. We are all interlinked. We are all connected on this wonderful universal web. It's not just the internet that we are connected by the thoughts. Actually, on the day that we learn how to control our thoughts, we're going to be able to connect without even the internet. We're not going to need the waves that flow around, because we're going to be able to connect ourselves just with our thoughts and our minds. But we just don't know how to do it yet. It happens. We don't understand the process, but it's already happening. So when we send, or when we create an image or a line of thoughts of bad things or bad feelings, or that we want to punish someone, we are creating this link. So we practice charity by thoughts, only thinking on the good things, only thinking and desiring to someone the good deeds, the good feelings, the love, the tranquility, the serenity. How can we practice charity by words? That's very easy. Keep your mouth shut.
Not saying.
That's easy. But that's so complicated at the same time. Because we should be able to control ourselves much better than we do. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. That means that we were supposed to listen twice as much than we speak, but we do exactly the opposite. We talk too much, twice as much than we were supposed to. How many times in our lives we just say something that we want to grab it back and said, "No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." But it was already gone. We already said it. We already hurt someone with our words on what we just said. Another way that we have to practice charity is controlling our words, controlling what we say, controlling what we desire to someone. And see the flow of this concept. We practice charity by thought, by word, and by act. Whatever we think, we create. Whatever we think, we speak. Whatever we speak, we transform that on an acting. If you are able to control our thoughts in first place, everything else will flow exactly as we create. If we were creating based on Jesus' teachings and on his examples, we are always creating good things. We are always practicing charity and helping other people with the ways that we are creating the things. But if you are creating by our thoughts the bad feelings and the bad desires to anyone else, we're going to be creating and collecting bad consequences in the future. So everything starts with our thoughts. How can we purify our thoughts? That's a very easy thing. There is a pill that we can buy, not in the pharmacy, not in CVS, not in Walgreens, not in Walmart, not in any one place. Just any library you can get. A gospel. A message from the New Testament. A passage on the gospel according to Spiritism. Any inspirational book. Anything that we can read and then we connect it with Christ and his moral teachings, which are perfect. A pill a day, a page a day, a phrase a day. That's the way that we can start to purify our thoughts and create this connection that we need to control and take control back in our lives. So this is just pretty much what the basics on how charity works and how can we do the practice. Which is also quite interesting. We have a book which is in Portuguese, yet there is no translation for English, at least for now. It's called Soul's Dictionary, which is a compendium on several books dictated by several spirits all of them channel on his entire life. On this Soul's Dictionary, we have two definitions about charity that I thought that it would be a good idea to bring it to us so we can reflect on that. Emmanuel says about charity, charity is not the exclusive privilege of those who temporarily enjoy material and financial abundance. It is primarily love, aid, self-giving. We all can help. It doesn't, we don't have to be rich. We don't have to have money on our wallets. We can do the practice, we can practice the charity with the thoughts and with the words as well. May, which is a very also important spirit, says, charity and thoughts, words and actions is the process of renewing our souls. Because when we start to control our thoughts, we are controlling our behavior. We are controlling what we feel. When we are able to stop a thought on its beginning, on its source, we are controlling ourselves. When we are controlling ourselves, we are renewing ourselves. So in practicing this charity, it's a process of renewing our souls and renewing ourselves. But when we look into all of these charity things, so now we learn into the basics. That's what we pretty much listen and see on an everyday basis, that we see and haven't seen before on the Spiritism classes, studies, books, and everything. But what about these characteristics of charity? What is this included? How can I understand better where these charities come from? How it can impact my life? Where we find the most, I would say, precise definition on charity and where we can bring the best of its teachings. Well, we all know a certain disciple of Christ which did not live with him, became a disciple 3 years after Christ has passed away, has been crucified. In the letters of Paul the Tarsus, which was the apostles of the Gentiles, we see on the first, apostles for the Corinthians, on the first letter for the Corinthians, on the chapter 13, we're gonna see the most precise, beautiful, and I would say involved in abrangente, it's encompassing definition on charity that we can, at least myself, that I can relate it to these teachings and everything. On this passage, on this chapter, Paul says, "If I speak in the tongues of men or angels, but do not have charity, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but if I do not have charity, I am nothing. If I give all that I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but if I do not have love, I gain nothing, and I mean nothing." On this passage, Paul brings to us the merit of intention behind any material charity. If we are giving the clothes that we have on our closets to somebody which is in need, because they are in need, because we feel touched by its needs, because we feel good doing the good to someone, because we really embrace this and we are understanding that that person is going through a hard time and needs our help and needs our support, perfect. We are giving something because we are feeling, because we have the intention to be helpful. We have the intention to be helping someone which is really going through a bad or a hard time on their lives. But if we give our clothes that we have in our closet, because it's a spring cleaning and I need to renew my closet, and I'm going to just take all of this that I have and take it for Salvation Army or Goodwill, are we doing the charity are we supposed to do? No, we are not. We are just transferring a few things that we don't need or that we don't want anymore and give it away for someone to do whatever they want with that. That's not charity. That's not involving love. That's not involving the intention of helping. That's not involving the feeling that we have to have towards someone which is in need, which is the feeling of attention, the feeling of talking, the feeling of extending our hands, to feeling to help someone to stand back on their own feet. We are just transferring a problem that we have, the clothes that we don't want anymore, and give it away for somebody else. So Paul says exactly that. If I give all that I possess to the poor and give it over my body to hardship, but I do not have a charity, I gain nothing. I mean nothing. I'm doing nothing. So the intention that we have behind any charity, any act, it's very, very, very important. Because we are doing that because we feel the need and we feel that we have to help someone. Not just because someone is watching, not just because I'm going to be looking good towards my friends and my co-workers and everything. Oh, I gave these. Oh, no, I gave that to charity. I made that contribution. No, we're just trying to show off. Can we remember any passage in the Gospel, in the New Testament, where Christ was showing off himself? I don't. Why should we us? Actually, he was always acting in silence. He was giving the things and people were not even realizing on what he was doing. Everything was in silence. But when we go over this passage of this on this letter from Paul, and we see the other topics also, we see all these, the greatness of this definition. Love, he goes and he defines the true charity beyond this passage. Shows not only in the practice of charity, but at the meeting of all the qualities of the heart, in the goodness and kindness to others. He starts to develop all of these concepts, and he shows how we should apply that and how we should behave in ourselves on our daily lives, and how this comes to our characteristics. Which are these characteristics that Paul is talking about that are going to affect the way that we behave, and I expect from now on? First of all, when he continues on this passage, on this letter, he says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. We can translate that into resignation, goodwill, complacency. And what is the word that can define all of that? We can define all of that as benevolence. When Paul continues on this passage, on this letter, he says, charity, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices with the truth. And we can translate to that. That means that act only upon the guidance of Christ's teachings. And how can we bring this in our lives? That's indulgence. Also, Paul says, it always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And this is patience, this is faith, this is wisdom, this is balance. This is forgiveness. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres, always forgets. That's forgiveness. So when we look into all of these definitions and we bring these to our lives, we can start to see. And now we can start to understand much better this phrase, without charity, there is no salvation. So these phrases, or this text that I was just reading over here, that's the letter from Paul to the Corinthians, the first letter from Paul to the Corinthians. And this now over here is in the gospel according to Spiritism on a message that he sent it to while the book was being written. And he says, nothing can indicate with more exactitude nor summarizes so well mankind's obligations at this divine maximum. Without charity, there is no salvation. But why is this mankind's obligation in a kind of stack or
Special place.
a special place? Why is this mankind's obligations bringing to our attention? What is our obligations nowadays? What we are trying to do with our lives? Why is this so important over here? Well, mankind's obligation can be defined as we can see also in Portuguese only. I'm sorry, I hope that we can bring some more titles in English. That's on this book over here, that means translating is the didactical order and analysis of the Spiritist book written by Cosme Massi. Cosme Massi is today one of the most knowledgeable persons about Allan Kardec's work. He knows all of his books and all the structures, the teachings and everything, because he's been studying this for the last 30 years. Cosme Massi made a lot of analysis on the teachings and the logical on the teachings from Kardec, based on his experiences and his experiences also as a professor. Just to mention, Cosme Massi was Reitor, how do you call this? Reitor. Yeah, he was the head of one of the most dean. Yes, thank you so much. He was the dean of one of the most important universities in Brazil, which is the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. Okay, but on this book, what is important is the message and what we can bring and where we can see that. He says about mankind's obligation. In short, charity, as we know, benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness. Charity summarizes all the duties of man towards the next, as it gives regard to all of aspects of man's interaction with his neighborhood. So, summarizes all the duties of man towards the next, as it gives regard to all of the aspects of man's interaction with his neighborhood. How do we interact? How men interacted one to the other? Where is this? Oh, according to these anthropologists. I'm saying that right? Oh, thank you so much. Now I have 2 English teachers. Very good, perfect. It's getting better over here, huh? Yeah, very nice. Very nice. So, as the anthropologists define, men interacted with other men, with other people in 3 different ways. We interacted by behaving, acting, by thinking, and by feelings. That's how we interact with our people. So, as we analyze these definitions by Cosme Massi, so let's bring this to our lives. In acting, how should my action? Should my action be towards my neighborhood? Because my action, it's in a way of interaction that I have with my neighborhood. So how should my action be towards my neighborhood? Well, my action should be always with benevolence. How can we exemplify that? Doing good is not just about being charitable, but to be useful as much as possible every time that their existence may be required. So, that's acting. By thinking, or when I think, judging or by evaluation my neighborhood, what should I do? How I should use this thinking interaction towards my neighbor? With indulgence. The indulgence is never concerned with the evil acts of others. It does not make shocking remarks, has no censorship, only advice, and in most cases, veil it. So when we see something going on, we always start to think bad about that situation or about that person. We don't even know what is going on, and we are assuming or making assumptions in a lot of things that we don't know. But when we think, if we think with indulgence, which means never take that action towards the evil side, we are not going to be making any assumptions, and we're not going to be creating a bad feeling or a bad connection with someone. So that's the two things, action and thinking. Now, let's talk about the feelings. So how should I interact with my neighbor about my feelings? When I feel, how should I receive the action from my neighbor? With forgiveness. True forgiveness, Christian forgiveness, is one that casts a veil over the past. So every time that we get something from our neighbor, we always should feel with forgiveness, not paying attention, not collecting the wrongdoings. And that's another point. If someone comes to give you a gift, and by any reason you don't accept that gift, of course, we're not talking about chocolate, because every time that you give a chocolate to someone is going to always accept chocolates, right? Yeah, I think that we are all in agreement with that. So if somebody bring a present for you, a gift for you, and you do not accept, you don't want that, to whose belongs that gift? For the person who brought that to you. If someone is bringing something for you that you don't like it, that you don't think that you deserve, that is going to fit it for you, that you should be getting that gift of bad feelings, bad thoughts, aggressions, or any other things, if you do not accept that, that is going to be sent back to the person. If someone agrees you, or someone is talking or wants to do something wrong with you, but you don't take that personally, you don't take that as a way that you should be taken, or the way that you should that you are accepting that action, we're going to stay with that person. And when we learn to leave our proud out of this equation, things is going to become much better to control and much better to realize. Also, when we look into that phrase from the previous slide that says, nothing can indicate with more exactitude nor summarizes so well mankind's obligation at this divine maximum, we also are going to think about the stage that we are all now. Paul, on this letter to the Corinthians, he finishes this letter with the following phrases. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. If we are on this evolution process, we are leaving behind our childhood. We are leaving behind these childhood behaviors and feelings. And we are assuming a new role for ourselves. We are taking control in our lives, and most importantly, we are taking control on our feelings. What we feel, how we react, it becomes our responsibility. We control our hearts, we control our thoughts, we control our reactions. What happens to us is not somebody else's fault. It's my decision, it's my choice. Because now I became a man. And as we decided to leave our childhood behind, we're going to be able to control whatever we are feeling. Because that's how exactly God is expecting us to be. We are in a transition right now. We are leaving this earth as a planet of trials and atonements to become a regeneration planet, a more evolved planet. And if we wanted to be part of this evolved planet, we want to take a responsibility on our evolution as well. Because guess what? If we're still behaving like a child, we're not going to fit in this planet anymore. One day we're going to be transferred from a planet of childs, not a planet of man anymore. And we are in this evolutional and transitional process. As fast as we decided to take control over it, based on the teachings and what Jesus had thought it to us 2,000 years ago, the faster we're going to be moving forward. So that's how these characteristics of charity we're going to impact our life. That every time that we act, that we interact with someone, if we can interact with benevolence, with indulgence, and with forgiveness, this is how we're going to be changing our behavior to be able to become a man and be part of this future world. It all depends on us. It all is all in our own hands. We have the power to do that. We have the capability to do this transformation within ourselves and within the other people that we react in and that we interact in on an everyday basis. But most importantly, Jesus' teachings are the guidance. Jesus' teachings are the guidance that we should be following every day. And when we apply that and we behave with benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness, we're going to be following the same footsteps that he left printed for us 2,000 years ago. Thank you very much for your time. I apologize if I talked too much today, but it was such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention.